If you're managing a parent's home right now, maybe it's an inherited property, maybe they're preparing to downsize, and you're already thinking about what needs to be fixed before you list, please don't call a contractor yet. I'm Tricia Garcia, a certified senior real estate specialist in California. 10 years working with inherited home families specifically. Let me start with a family that I worked with. It was a brother and sister. Their mother had passed away and they were getting her home ready to sell. They were very organized, they were thoughtful, and they did exactly what most families do in this situation. They walked through the house and started making a list. Kitchen felt dated, the appliances were older, the countertops were original, so they called a contractor. But by the time they were done, they had put in quartz countertops, a new stove, a refrigerator, a new dishwasher, and yes, it looked very beautiful. It was clean and updated, the kind of kitchen that you would stop scrolling for in a listing photo. They weren't trying to make money on the renovation. They were trying to honor their mother. That home sold, but for the same price as a comparable home on the next street over that hadn't been touched. $20,000 spent, zero return on any of it. The renovation didn't honor what their mother left behind. It just cost the estate $20,000 that she worked her whole life to build. And I want you to understand something about that family. They didn't make a bad decision. They made the decision almost every family makes, and they made it for exactly the right reason. There are two forces that hit inherited home families at the same time, and together they're very hard to push back against. The first one is HGTV. For years, renovation television has trained all of us to believe that updating a home before you sell is just what you do, right? Quartz countertops, new appliances, fresh flooring. The show makes it look like an obvious move, like it's almost irresponsible not to. The second one is grief. When you're standing in your parents' home, surrounded by their things, trying to figure out what to do next, fixing things up feels like an act of love, like you're sending the house off the right way, like you're honoring them. When both of these forces hit at the same time, the contractor gets called almost every single time. And here's the part that nobody tells you. Buyers of inherited homes almost always intend to make the space their own. The kitchen that you updated to your taste or what you thought the buyer's taste would be, they had something different in mind. The flooring that you chose, they were planning to change it anyway. So you spent money building a version of that home that the buyer was never going to keep. So the real question isn't what needs to be fixed, it's what to leave completely alone and where that money actually belongs. Let me walk you through it. Let's start with the don'ts. 3 things that families regularly spend money on in inherited home sales that almost never come back at closing. The first one is the kitchen. You already heard about what happened to the family that I told you about. Quartz countertops, new appliances, $20,000. Same sale price as the home just down the street that hadn't even been touched. Now, that's not unusual. The National Association of Realtors tracks something called a joy score. How much satisfaction a renovation project brings a homeowner. I bet you can guess a kitchen project scores near the top. People love a renovated kitchen. But when the same report looked at a cost recovery, how much of what you spent actually came back in the sale price, kitchen upgrades didn't lead that list. Here's why. A buyer who wants a high-end kitchen will buy a high-end kitchen home. They're comparing your listing to other listings at the same price point. And if your kitchen is newly renovated, but the surrounding home or the street doesn't support that level, the buyer doesn't pay more. They appreciate it, yeah, but the money doesn't follow. In an inherited home especially, buyers know what they're getting into. Most of them plan to make the space their own. So the renovation that you did to make it feel current, they see it as your taste, not theirs. The kitchen isn't the problem. The assumption that the buyer wants what you want, that's what costs the estate. Number 2 is flooring and finishes in isolation. All right. I had a family come to me wanting to replace their grandmother's carpet. It was white carpet, so I completely understood the instinct before I even walked into that home. But when I got there, I noticed that the carpet was in excellent shape. There were absolutely no stains, no pet smell. No one had been smoking in the house. It had been very, very carefully maintained. What they were planning was to swap it out for a tan carpet or a wood-like flooring, but they weren't planning on any other upgrades alongside it. So here's what I told them. When you replace one element in isolation, you don't make the home look better. You actually make everything around it look worse. New flooring against dated walls, dated tile, dated fixtures. The contrast pulls every buyer's eye to what hasn't been updated. So you spent money on something that actually created more questions. What I recommended instead was put that time and money towards cleaning out their grandmother's belongings and fresh paint in the rooms that really needed it. You're not trying to impress the buyer, but you are trying to reassure them. Those are different jobs and they require different moves. Number 3 is preemptively replacing big ticket items. The HVAC is aging, the water heater is older, and everything in you says, get ahead of it, replace it before listing. Don't give the buyers a reason to negotiate. But here's what preemptive replacement actually does. It spends your money on a problem the inspection hasn't confirmed yet, and it gives you nothing at the negotiating table in return. This is actually how it plays out. The buyer's inspector comes through. They're gonna note the age of the system. Then the buyer's gonna come back and ask for a credit or a concession. Now, you have options. You can negotiate, offer a credit, and move towards closing from a position of flexibility. You have chips to play. But when you replace the system before listing, you've already spent that money. You didn't get a price increase for it because buyers expect functional systems. They don't pay extra for them. And you walked into that negotiation without anything to offer. Hold the money. Let the inspection tell you what actually needs to be addressed. And then you can respond from strength. The inspection isn't the enemy. It's the moment you find out exactly what matters to that specific buyer and what doesn't. Now let's talk about what's worth doing. 2 things plus one that most families overlook entirely. Number 1 is paint. The single most recommended pre-sale project by real estate agents, more than staging, more than landscaping, more than any renovation, is the interior paint. According to the National Association of Realtors 2025 Remodeling Impact Report, 50% of real estate agents recommended painting the entire interior before listing. It's the most common recommended move across the board. Another 41% recommended painting at least one room. And here's why it works, especially in an inherited home. Fresh paint doesn't update a space. It resets it, it removes the visual noise, the scuff marks, the dated colors, the walls that just looked lived in. When a buyer walks in and everything is clean and neutral tone, their brain doesn't register, this needs work. It registers, this house is cared for. You don't have to paint every room. Focus on what shows in listing photos and walkthroughs. Typically, the main living areas and the master bedroom. That's about it. It's one of the highest return moves that you can make before a sale, and it costs a fraction of what families spend on kitchen and flooring that buyers are going to redo anyway. Number 2 is remove the large furniture. This one surprises families more than paint does, but it matters. The oversized china hutch, the big armoire in the bedroom, the massive TV console, the formal dining set that fills a room wall to wall. Listing photos are how buyers decide whether to schedule a showing. So when a large piece of furniture fills a room, it photographs small, even if the square footage is generous. But buyers are going to scroll past it, or they walk in and their first impression is, this feels really tight. And that feeling's going to stick with them. So clearing those pieces, even if the room feels sparse to you, is going to let buyers see the actual space. It lets them picture their own furniture in it. And that's the moment that the house stops feeling like your parents' home and starts feeling like a possibility for them. I know this is often harder than it sounds. A lot of these pieces have sentimental value. Some of them are large enough that you're not sure what to do with them. So this is one of the places that my network comes in. I work with families to connect them with estate sales specialists, senior move managers, and donation resources who can help move things in a way that honors the family and clears the home at the same time. You don't have to figure this out alone. And then one more thing that I really want to mention, the cleaning crew. Not a surface wipe down. I'm talking about a real deep clean. Inside the cabinets, the window sills, the baseboards, the places that buyers check when they're deciding whether a home has been taken care of. When a buyer opens a cabinet and it's genuinely clean and organized, they feel it. And it tells them something about how this home was kept. It costs very little compared to any renovation, and it signals exactly what you want to signal, that this home was loved. That's the story you want every room to tell. Now, here's what I want you to do with all the money that you didn't spend on the kitchen, the flooring, the HVAC, because it doesn't just sit there. It goes somewhere specific, and this is the part that families never hear before it's too late. Hold it for the estate, not vaguely, not as a we'll figure it out later intention, but deliberately as a reserve, because you're going to need it and you're going to be glad that it's there. Here's how this actually unfolds. Once your home is under contract, then the buyer brings in their own home inspector. That inspector goes through the property and produces a report. And then the buyer submits a repair request, not always for everything on that report, but when they do, it's usually for health and safety reasons, and it's almost always for items that require a licensed contractor to address. Something very specific and something that the inspector flagged. So this is where the families who held their money are in a completely different position than the families who spent it. If the buyer does request a repair, you have options. You can negotiate a credit. The buyer receives a dollar amount at closing and handles it themselves. Or if the request is reasonable and the reserve is there, you can agree to address it directly. Either way, you're negotiating from strength. Money in the estate pocket, options in your hand. But the families who spent everything up front walked into that same negotiation depleted. The contractor was paid, but the reserve is gone. And now the buyer wants something addressed and there's nothing left to work with. So holding the money isn't passive. It's actually the most protective move that you can make for the estate right now. You're not doing nothing. You're staying ready for the moment that this actually matters. And I want to say something about that because it points to something bigger. Holding the reserve, waiting for the inspection, choosing not to spend money on upgrades a buyer never asked for, that's not restraint. That's stewardship. It's a posture, and it's the thing that I want to leave you with before we close out. And I want to come back to something that I said at the beginning. The reason families overfix an inherited home isn't bad judgment. It isn't reckless. It's that spending feels like love. The quartz countertops, the new HVAC, the carpet, every one of those decisions, it feels like a way to honor the person that they lost, to send the house off the right way, to do right by them. If you're standing in your parents' home right now with a list of things that you thought had to be fixed, this is your permission to stop. Put the list down. You don't have to call anyone today. Talk through what your specific situation actually needs, the home you're dealing with, the timeline that you're working with, the family dynamics you're navigating. I offer a free 15-minute call. No pressure, no pitch, just clarity on where to start. The link is in the description and it's on the screen right now. And if you're watching this thinking, okay, I know what not to fix, but what about the tax side? because if this is an inherited property in California, there's a law that affects what your family keeps at closing. And most families don't hear about it until it's too late. That's what my Prop 19 video covers. I'll link it right here, so watch that one next.